Welcome to the third episode of the Middle of the Meal podcast with your hosts, The Worm.
And the sandwich. They say third time's the charm.
Billy Corgan said this?
I think he did say this. Yes, that's why it took him 3 albums till he shaved his head off. You know?
And that's a clever thing. I wouldn't be surprised if you did that one day. You take a
Me?
lot from him, I think.
Me?
Yes. You're
I thought
clever, and I
we
think you take
no.
it from him.
I thought we agreed that I'm more like Maynard than I am like the big WPC.
Well, you sure are a tool. I mean,
Okay.
is that what we're getting at? You
Okay.
sure are a
No,
tool. We
sure.
both are
Yeah, sure.
acolytes. No, it's not really something to argue about because we're both readers of the
Okay.
script, also known as Lateralis.
I was
One
gonna
of
say fear
the great works.
inoculum, but I guess that always works.
I wonder if Corgan dipped his hand in there. Maybe that's a conversation for a different episode, but
Dipped his
that's
hand
to
in
me that's a lot like
what?
Autumn. He dipped his hand in there, I think.
In where?
In Fear Inoculum. I think it's a very
Oh,
interesting
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
album by Tool.
No, sure. Yeah.
Not
I
saying it's
think he
all bad, but
definitely
it's
had
just
some
it's
work.
an interesting Tool album.
Right.
Again, conversation on a different day, and we're not talking about new things today. They were talking about all the way back 1991, where Billy Corgan invented rock music, Gish.
Yes, back to the roots, as
To the
WPC
beginning.
would say. Yes, back to the beginning. Which is why he was invited to Ozzy's farewell show, back to the beginning. That was
Oh, to be
actually named
inspired.
after, yes, that was named after uh, William Patrick Corgan. The entire
That's so
farewell
kind.
show was themed around him, actually. Pretty unique.
That's that's so kind for everyone to do for him. He has given us a lot, and that's the interesting
Yes.
thing about this guy. He's seemingly very difficult, but he's definitely produced some things that are very near and dear to me. And I think what we're talking about today is where it all started, and you can definitely see the roots of things in Melancholy and Siamese Dream in this. But also, I think different things in the sense that it was definitely the first one. You know,
The first one, how?
I just think when you stack those 3 records together, I feel like not even just me, but maybe someone else could notice that if you listen to all 3 and you were supposed to put them in order, I think there's no way you don't put Gish first, I think. I don't think there's a way. You don't push Gish first.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that as they went through their later albums, they definitely became more not only more mature as a sound and lyrically, but just more unique. Which that's interesting to me because Billy actually talked about he made like an episode on Gish, and he talked about one of the issues that they were having at the beginning. With the beginning of the band was just that they didn't feel like they were coming up with any unique or new content, which is interesting because Gish went on to be one of the, if not the best selling indie album of all time, right? So it's just interesting that he didn't think that they were coming up with anything unique, and yet it clearly made an impact on people.
Yeah, and when I say this is definitely sounding like the first, I don't think I'm discrediting it because I do think there's some really strong stuff in here. But maybe I mean more so in the diversity of sound. I don't think it compares to like Siamese Dream or Melancholy.
No,
These seem
I definitely
very,
agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, they all definitely have very similar traits to each other when Melancholy is the album with something like Bullet with Butterfly Wings,
Hmm.
followed by To Forgive. I don't think that's something they would have ever done on their first album.
Now, why do you think that is? Do you think it's just because they didn't Do you think that maybe the goal was to become a little more mainstream before they put something like that out? Or do you think that maybe early on Smashing Pumpkins really didn't have that ability and they didn't really have that ability until they released Siamese Dream in 93?
I mean, it could be a confidence thing because I just think if we think about albums, right, and mainstream bands like Smashing Pumpkins, I feel like they're the ones that really, at least in Melancholy, definitely did different genres in an album, right? I feel like let's think of other big bands in the '90s. Grunge,
Right.
I think, definitely stuck to a very similar style of music in their albums. Most metal in the '90s definitely also stuck to the same style. So when it comes to rock, I do think they were unique in that sense that in their albums they could be a little more fluid with genre. But not in this first one. I think this was definitely a growth. Growth was shown here as the first
Right.
like step.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think the confidence to have or having the confidence to do something a little more progressive with your album is definitely something that uh that they experienced. Um
Yeah. While I wouldn't say every song on this album is like I see as like very formative to them as a band, I think maybe more so the experience of making an album like this and then seeing it succeed is what led to that confidence, I think.
and I guess just another question before we like dive into the songs. Do you think that they saw themselves succeeding? Like do you think that when they put this out there they really thought that, this was something that was going to become as big as it did for them?
Well, to give the Korg some credit, the stories you do hear about Gish and Siamese Dream, it did seem like these were projects he really did head with the drive to make these successful. So I think at least he did because it you just hear it all the time that he had to like do the bass, both guitar parts. So I think it was an album with a center force, which was him for sure. So I think so, yeah. I think that was the goal. I think that was the goal.
But you think that he thought that they were guaranteed success almost?
Well, how else do you go about something like that, you know? I feel like when I really want something, I too need to believe in it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That makes sense.
And especially an album's like it's like a whole production, you know? There's a lot of things that go into it. It's definitely not easy. It's definitely not
No,
easy.
no, and I mean, he said it was expensive too. I guess I don't really
That too.
know how the production money works for it, but he said they were allotted like $20,000, I think. And
Oh
all of
no,
that
yeah.
went to studio time, you know?
No, I know a couple stories about studios just throwing money at a band and then the band doesn't even end up using it.
Wow. Yeah.
Like I believe on Ween's first three albums, a studio just threw them like 30,000 and they ended up using 300 of it on studio equipment and just like went on a trip to Jamaica. So money
Wow.
that you are allotted by like studios is interesting, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe it also depends where you are and what kind of music you're making. Because like Ween was making lo-fi music, I would assume it's a lot harder when there are so many amps involved in the production. It
Right.
depends on what
Sure.
you set
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And while this is not as like monumental as Melancholy or Siamese Dream, it's still great. I would say it's still a great
No,
album.
it's definitely the beginning of something that went on to define generations. Like it's interesting because this was considered to have a very big impact on the scene at the time. But it's not. I mean, you talk to people, most people today that know of Smashing Pumpkins, they don't know about Gish. It was really their later projects that went on to have a generational impact on people. And I do find that pretty interesting how this was such a big deal back in the day and now it's, it's not even thought about. It's everything else they did that had a generational impact.
Right. And I think that's just the sum of I think the music in Melancholy is just more memorable. I think.
And yeah, and
Unfortunately, I
Siamese
think
Dream.
this is,
Yeah.
yeah, like unfortunately I just think it is and that's how it happened to be and that's how it will be remembered. But if we place our thoughts in the day, like 1991, this is a mix of definitely a lot of guitar fuzz, but still very riff driven, which I think was definitely not something that was very much popularized at the time, like a mixture of those two things.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, and lyrically as well. I mean, these are, I mean, we're considering Billy would have been uh 24, I think, when this album was released. And these are definitely some pretty heavy lyrics for somebody of that age to be writing, you know? Like,
He had a difficult life from what it seems, difficult early life. So
right.
probably some formative experience led to that for sure.
Hmm. But
And
that's
I think that's
definitely
why,
interesting.
I think I Am One is very telling of I think where he was at that time. Because I think that's an interesting song.
Yeah, I mean, even that first line, right? I am one as you are three. That's a very, I mean, for one, that's a very forward statement, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know how else to phrase that. Like, and we're
I
thinking this
mean,
is the very first line that this band ever put out, right? That's a
mhm,
very bold statement to say, I am one as you are three. And this is obviously referring to the Holy Trinity, right? Just
yeah.
from, I mean, the next line, but also
Try
just
to
throughout
find
the
Messiah
song.
in your training. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's just it's an interesting thing to be like from the perspective. I feel like there's multiple perspectives you could take this from here. It's one of those songs that I feel like is a little bit intentionally vague so you can place yourself in it a little bit. But I see the narrator or as somebody who's either very dogmatic in their beliefs and they're unwilling to change, or somebody who's maybe questioning their beliefs as well. Like maybe it could be two sides of the same coin, you know.
Potentially, yes, in the way that first line is framed. I am one as you are three. I think that's I said it's very direct. That's definitely sounds like a question's being not a question, but something that's being posed to someone. And then a later line, it does seem like he's talking to someone in the sense like try to find it to me it sounds like try to find a way to live. It does sound like a conversation about that. With the line like try to look for something in your city to burn, you will burn. I think that's talking about changing yourself by looking inward. Try to find the Messiah in your Trinity. Maybe trying to find who you are and not what other people think you may be, perhaps.
Right, yeah, and on with, try to find a messiah in your trinity. I think it could just be like you said, who you are, but also what it means for you to believe in something, you know? Like which I
Yeah.
mean that's part of who you are, but it's really more so like you're placing yourself in the belief. So it's something that's also kind of bigger than you, to be to be involved in religion or spirituality. It's something that's bigger than you. And I think that that line kind of conveys that. I do want to go back to um your city to burn. I've always been like I've not come to a clear conclusion on what I think this line means. I don't know if it's supposed to be as like aggressive as I make it out to be. I make it out to be a very aggressive line. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like
I
I don't
wouldn't
I
completely agree about the aggression there.
right.
It's it just sounds bitter, I think. And also with this album, I do think this is supposed to be a more hostile song. I think those are the two sounds in this album. Things that are more angry and explosive and things that are more melancholic. And I think
Right.
this is the first I think this is an angrier song. telling it how it is. And what I think that line means is looking inward. When you look inward, you might have to destroy something that you didn't think you were going to have to change. I think that's what that means to me.
Okay, so you think that he's not saying to somebody like something of you is gonna burn. It's he's talking to himself, like something in me has to burn in order to change.
Yeah, that's why I like your idea that it could be him talking to someone or inward. I do like the duality there
Right.
because I do think it could be both. It could be both. I'm leaning more on Ames talking to himself.
Right.
But that line,
No, definitely a
the
very
city could
interesting
also be
song.
religion,
Hmm?
I think. The city could
This
also be like religion. Maybe look into your beliefs, and when you do, you're looking for something
Oh,
in your
yeah.
beliefs to get rid of. You find out that that's also you. You also believe in this, so you end up burning.
Ooh, I like that a lot actually.
Because I think that is that not maybe a thing maybe you've encountered with religious people, or at least someone who was religious in the past, or maybe that's a story they have where they went a little more deeper than the surface level text and maybe found something that they now are very vehemently against, but maybe it was something they believed in the past.
Well, that's
I think
definitely
maybe that's how
like
those things start, perhaps.
what I said was, it's not just like your spirituality and your beliefs, it's not just something that you believe in, it's something that you place yourself in, and so it becomes something that's bigger than yourself. And whether you believe in like a traditional, like, or I say traditional, but traditional in the West, Abrahamic religion, or if you are, a spiritual person, but you maybe aren't, uh, you don't follow like an Abrahamic religion, or you're just an atheist, like, regardless, all of these encompass you have to consider something bigger than yourself and place yourself in that. So I like this idea of you saying you're in the city and your city is burning, right? And you're part of that city because it's something bigger than yourself is burning. So I do really like that
Oh,
idea.
yes. It's a,
Yeah.
yeah. And from what I have heard him talk about his own religion, he does seem to be not as. I do believe he identifies as Christian, but I don't believe he is as traditional in the sense he follows a certain sect of it, like a specific sect, I
It's
believe.
very popular with Gen X, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is something I wasn't aware of.
I may be wrong about
But
that.
no,
I just, yeah.
no, but look at that song. That's the first song ever. First Smashing Pumpkins song. That's telling of what this band was going to become.
And it sets a precedent for, like, I didn't realize until I'd really, like, probably my third or fourth run through of Melancholy and Whole. Like, there are a lot of songs that have or a lot of Smashing Pumpkins songs that have religious associations. Um and I think that is kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Was, 1991, would he been one of the first to at least address this in alternative music? Like religion in alternative
In the
music?
main, well, in the mainstream,
Sure.
because thrash in the '80s did touch on religion, I believe, a few
Right.
times.
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely in the mainstream. Well, is
In the
thrash
alternative mainstream,
alternative? Like, is thrash
I would
metal
say it's
alternative?
alternative music. Well, I think all metal music is alternative. Well, that's not true.
Okay.
Sleep Token, but I think back
Let's not
then.
go there.
Well, I think back then, in the sense of also think about the '80s, like Satanic Panic. I think anything that was probably
Oh,
louder than the
true.
Beatles is probably considered alternative.
That's fair. Yeah,
I like,
that's
yeah,
true.
and I think that's another thing with this album too, or Smashing Pumpkins in general. I think that alternative is a label that changes very actively, not so much as something like jazz or metal. I think the alternative label changes with the times.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's changed even within the past. Well, I feel like it doesn't change as much nowadays, but it was definitely very fluid in the 90s, I think. We
Because does
took a
alternative
lot
not
into
just
the
mean new?
genre. I feel like that's, I don't know about that. I don't know.
I feel like the reaction to alternative music in the 80s when it regards to Satanic Panic is definitely similar to what was done with jazz during its beginnings. People were very vehemently against how chaotic it was and would even say things like this is like satanic and stuff. So I think that is a it's a label that changes when we become more okay as a society with what this piece of art's expressing.
Yeah, but I mean, have we really had any alternative music made within the past 10, 15 years? Like, just because uh, the disagreements between generations has changed so much since the 90s, you know? Like, it's not, I
Hmm.
don't know. Like, I feel like we don't have alternative
Has
music.
has what it means to be alternative changed within the 90s and now? I don't think so necessarily. I feel like the musical landscape has stayed pretty much the same in the sense that rap and pop music is still like the mainstream, and rock and metal when it does come out today is considered alternative with like quotation marks.
Yeah, I don't know. That's fair. Like the only one that I have really any or like the only more recent band that I have any context for is like Fleshwater. Would they be like alternative? I guess they would
Yeah,
be, right?
yeah. And I would say the same about maybe the most recent band I listened to is probably Title Fight. And I think you look at
Okay,
where those
yeah.
two bands originated from in definitely a more underground independent scene. The indie scene still exists. So I think
Right, yeah.
that means like indie bands do become successful.
No, they do. Yeah, they do still.
And Smashing Pumpkins must have set a precedent by that for being so high selling this album.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe that was a turning point for indie music, having the ability to become more mainstream. Well, things with like MTV, like TV was a thing. You can more easily promote your thing. Right.
Right. And now the scene for that is even different because it's so easy to just like not just to promote, but you don't even need somebody's support or somebody agreeing, saying what you're producing is good to put this on a platform.
Yeah,
You can literally just go
anyone
on
can make
Spotify and upload it, like it's or
yeah.
YouTube. It's a completely different scene.
Yeah. It's an interesting label because then you say like, "Oh, are you alternative if you're under a label that like can give you the yay or nay on things?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Like would alternative today maybe be not producing under a label at all, you know? Like being
Yeah, I think
completely
maybe
independent.
I feel like we would have a more strict definition on that nowadays. For
Yeah, just
sure, we would
because
have a more strict definition.
the forms in which you can upload your music, right? Like would it yeah, I'm just thinking maybe it would be considered more independent or alternative to not pursue going through a label and just posting your shit on YouTube or Spotify, you know? Like is that alternative? I guess probably,
And
right?
yeah, but then you're also just indie, and are you just indie? Are you alternative indie?
Right. Yeah. It's yeah.
Every time I think about this, I just think less and less genre is really that big of a deal.
I mean, I would agree, except I definitely stay within specific genres when I listen to music. And that's not really like intentionally. It's just that I know I know the sounds that I like and that I enjoy
Right.
and that,
It's an easy category. I'll say that about it. It's easy to categorize these things this way, but it can become like pedantic at a point
sure.
because then you're
Yeah.
just like, this doesn't fit here really. So, but
Right.
then where do you put it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is Gish if not just alternative? I think a little psychedelic. I think a little psychedelic, especially with this
Psychedelic.
like Eva.
Hmm.
Siva's a
Eva,
drug
yes.
song. Like, that's a drug song. I don't live, I inhale. I don't give, I unveil. Like I think that's pretty psychedelic to me.
See, I'd always taken those two a little bit in like a little bit of a different direction. Yeah, I don't live, I inhale. I don't give, I unveil. To me, this was like the concept of survival, and you're not giving, but
Hmm.
you're unveiling. So you're like a seeker of truths. So like the narrator is uncovering something here, right? But you're if you're not living, you're inhaling. You're literally just surviving. You know, you're not really. You're just consuming. You know.
And that is maybe also telling of just the scene at that point, or who young, or what it meant to be a young person at that time. Way down deep within my heart lies a soul that's torn apart. I feel like that's an aspect that definitely drove people, or maybe something they saw in themselves that drives people to listen to that kind of music, like Smashing Pumpkins, like Alice in Chains. Of that, it
Right.
really is
They.
speaking to someone who doesn't feel okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's something that they really resonated with. And I agree with that. And we spoke with that in one of our earlier episodes. We spoke about, why it became or why grunge became so popular is because this was the first time where people were actually seeing a piece of themselves in these things that they were listening to. And maybe that's part of why Gish became so popular is with a song like Siva. That's definitely uh the first like 8 lines of this song are definitely very angsty, I guess. You know.
And yeah, yeah, really, yeah. I think that's what the '90s did, is just threw that as a marketing thing as well. I think, because sure, this music like this existed in the '80s, but I think the angst about it became like the thing just thrown up there, right? Look at the way these guys got during Melancholy and the way they like dressed. Billy Corgan went bald. Like I think
Yeah.
that was definitely a marketing thing that we're like, we are like raw, we're like rebels kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
It was a more polished punk movement, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and
But
then
again, interesting that you can have things like that, See Volume 1, and then you have Rhinoceros. And that's a whole different thing, I
Rhinoceros is
think.
it's a very underrated song, I think. Even for
Not as
today.
simple, I think, as the first two as well.
No, it's to me it's a lot more complicated. To me, there's some very specific imagery in this song. Uh which is I don't know, it's definitely a very interesting song. Like I said, I don't think that this song is appreciated very much. I think that this is definitely a song that could still be popular today, among the hits from Melancholy and Siamese Dream. I'm kind of surprised it's not.
It is the
Um,
most popular Gish, though. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Yeah. But I mean, I really it like it only really became important to me, I think. Maybe when I was re-listening to it for this episode actually. And I
Hmm.
just noticed like I was listening to it and I was like, wow, like this is very to me there's a lot of very specific imagery, but also just in the way that the song is composed, like the bass line is very playful. And then the first couple of lines of the song, it's obviously you're to me it's the beginning of the song is it's a very juvenile perspective, right? Panda show, trees and balloons, ice cream, snow, see you in June. Um, and the first 3 lines are memories that you have as a kid, right? And then I have
Yeah.
this theory that the see you in June is like happiness. So it's like, June is a happy month. That's like the warmth and comfort associated with the beginnings of summer, right? Um
Hmm.
so whatever is going on here, this is like I'll see you in that happiness, right? And then the next 4 lines of this song could have known I would reveal, and then should have known I would conceal your way. So the could have known I would reveal is it's obvious to anybody around a child, like a young person, who's kind of learning to lie and failing at it, that they're not going to be successful with lying. But then as this person gets older, it should have been obvious to himself that he's going to conceal the ways of people around him, because that's what he was taught to do, and he was punished for it earlier or punished for doing it wrong earlier in youth, right? So
Right.
I just think it's a very interesting song, because it's definitely just that juvenile perspective. And I think the fact that, or like, the the playfulness of the bass and the way that it's composed kind of agrees with that, you know? Like, it's supposed to be the, like, from a juvenile perspective.
Yeah. And it doesn't start how it ends. It gets really loud.
Yes,
Yeah, like that.
yes,
The
yeah.
bass is no longer. It's no longer the main element of just like this sweetness. I think. Like at the beginning, yeah, like all these childhood memories, you think is gonna be like something sweet, but no. And then the repetition of she knows
Mhm.
is like this big revelation. It gets like darker.
Yes,
And there's something
yes.
I've never thought about the name. I think the name is actually a lot simpler than makes it out to be. I don't know why I've never thought about this. If it is about so much about lying and like lying in your youth, I think it's probably just some like wordplay with like how rhinos have like a horn, right?
Oh,
Pinocchio when he
yes. Yeah,
lies.
yes. I see that actually. I've
I
not thought about that before either,
Yeah,
but
like I think that yeah, it's I always thought, oh, this is one of the random Billy Corgan song titles. No, open your eyes to these mustard lies, and yeah.
I do wonder who the she is. I have a couple of different perspectives on this. It could be, I think when he talked about the song, he mentioned something about like some mysterious woman that he knew. I That's not how I perceive the song. I think the she could be anybody in this person's life who uh knew about the situation. It could have been like a sibling. It could have been somebody above him who was causing this situation. And I think
Oh
maybe it
wait,
changes on
um,
context.
perhaps it was his stepmother, because I believe I've heard or I've read a couple stories about him and his stepmother. His main issue with his stepmother was she never stood up for him in the abuse that he faced from his dad. Perhaps it's about that.
Okay. Because he also, one of the lines is, he's saying she knows, but he also, once or twice in the song, he says, how's it she knows? Like, how is it that she knows? So that's why I'm like a little mixed, because I'm like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that one might be more maybe yeah, maybe it was just some mysterious girl that maybe knew something about him.
mm-hmm.
But the fact that we make these other claims that I think that we can both agree that this is not a one-way answer that's still valid, I think that's the makings of an amazing song.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. And it's a lot deeper than I first thought initially. I really had to listen to it quite a few times and like put myself in the role a little bit to try and understand what's going on here, especially because like these first couple of lines, it just seems like gibberish in comparison to the rest of the song, but I think it's setting up a story is what these first couple of lines are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really thought about the story. I really thought it was maybe just something purely nostalgic in the sense of just growing up and how things start to be maybe like a greater sense of paranoia maybe is
Right.
what I maybe always thought the song was. And I think from when I've liked the Smashing Pumpkins, this has definitely stayed within like my top like 10 maybe like favorites.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good
It's very
song.
memorable, I think. It was very memorable. That progression, like that's cinema. That's cinema. That's really good.
Yeah, it's a very pretty song as well. Like I said, I really do like the playfulness of the bass. I don't feel like you see that, or you don't hear that super often in songs, but it's a very it's to me it
Say.
sounds like you're bouncing a ball almost is what it sounds like to me. The do 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 do, and then like down again,
Yeah,
up
I think the
again.
Pixies do something similar as well.
Yes, yeah.
Pixies are like hailed for the loud, quiet kind of trend of the '90s,
Right.
and that would make sense. The producer of this album is also the same one that did Nevermind,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
who many times I've noted taking inspiration from the Pixies. The Pixies have a lot to do with the '90s alternative rock
So
scene.
basically what you're saying is Nirvana did well because of William Patrick Corgan is basically what I'm hearing.
You gotta get well, um,
Choose your
considering
words
his
carefully.
temperament, I think we'll go with this. I think we'll go with this.
That's right. We do
You
want
know,
to
I
be
think even
magnificent others. So,
no, right, because I think maybe when the Pixies were making their music, they were like, "Wait, this guy's gonna be born one day, and he's gonna need this." So that's why they made what they made to inspire him. You know, even as back as the '60s when the Beatles first started off, they were like, "One day there'll be a William Patrick Corgan."
yes,
You know,
yes. Which
which
the
again
Beatles
we
is the
joke,
only
but like
band
this guy
greater
made
than
the song.
Smashing Pumpkin. No, exactly. Yeah, I
What a
mean,
what a, what a nice thing to say. That's so interesting about personalities. I definitely like the guy, be an asshole or be he not. I love this music.
no,
That's
exactly.
probably not.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
wouldn't change it because it's just very far removed from those aspects of himself, and I think that's why I like it. Actually, I don't think there's really a Smashing Pumpkin song, well, at least that I'm aware of from Machina to Gish, that I can think is really showcases one of those qualities. That I also think that's interesting that that's not really showcased in his music.
What do you mean? What's not showcased?
Well, actually, maybe the snarkiness I think can be shown in some songs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, you don't really see that personality in his music, I think.
Yeah, that's when artists start to do that. That definitely starts to draw a line between what the goal of the piece is, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because then this song is, and that maybe is a newer thing, maybe with like, well, yeah, I would say it's a newer thing with like the virality of stuff,
All you know about
where
me is
you
what I
want to make a
sold you, dumb
statement.
fuck. I don't know about that, man. I think it's been around for a while.
I guess, yeah, no, sure, it has, but I think it's more about the virality of the statement you're trying to make. Now
Sure.
it's easier.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more so about that. But he can be a calm little guy. He can make like little fun ditties like "Bury Me." I think it's a very just fine, fun song. Maybe more
Yeah.
filler. I enjoy that song. And then things like "Crush," I think is what I think many people think "Rhinoceros" is gonna be, with the very just playfulness. I think that I do really like "Crush." I think it's a very calm song.
What do you like about the song? Just the instrumental part? Lyrically, it's not incredible to
Yeah,
me.
lyrically, no, I don't think is what is memorable about it to me. I do think the nature of the song is just quite nice. To me, it's like the image is like a cat like basking in like some sunlight to me. It's a playful like song, very bubbly, like do 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 like that.
Right. Yeah.
Like a light. It's a bright song. Bright song. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it
Yeah.
says much lyrically. I would also
Right.
consider that more so like filler. But good. Like that's a good song.
No. No, I agree. It is a good song. I think. Oh,
And then
Suffer.
one of the greatest heists in music history.
What?
One of the greatest heists in music history.
Oh, yes, true. I completely forgot about how
where our protagonist was robbed under his feet.
yes, yes. Man, I can't believe that William Patrick Corgan came up with Plush from Stone Temple Pilots.
I'm telling
Man,
you,
what
I won't question it. I
yeah,
won't question that.
yeah. What
All
talent.
that you suffer is all that you are. That's an interesting line. All you suffer is all that you are.
It's very true. It's very true because this goes back to the thought of like who you are as a
Yeah,
person is it's the every single reaction that you've ever had. It's like who you are as a person is every person that you've ever been, you know, from youth to adulthood. It's every reaction you've ever had. Because that the very next line is also all that you smother is all that you are, you know. So it's you get both sides of the coin here, I think.
what do you think about the line "Drink from the reasons that hold you alive"? Do you think that also ties directly into those first two?
I I do think so because I think a lot of people uh cling to an identity. I think a lot of people do this. Is their identity is very important to them and who they are as a person is very important to them. And uh I think that sometimes when people veer off of that, maybe it's an action that they take or something just happens to them, they try to go back to these aspects that define their identity, even if it doesn't make much sense in the moment. Does that kind of make sense? You know?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I didn't really give this song I didn't really give much thought to upon re-listen for this. I do think maybe it does drag on a bit. I think 6 minutes is interesting for this song. I think that was an interesting choice to make it as long
Six
as it
minutes,
is.
it is a very long song, but I do think that as you get closer to the end, it's very interesting because to me, this reads as somebody who's uh, gone through trauma, maybe, or gone through something, and they don't like how their personality is or how they react to things. Because he talks about too late to discover peace of mind. And to me, this is somebody who he's saying he can't be ignorant to what he is or to what the world around him is. Uh, and yeah, that he can't, you must rise from the mounds of desire and change. It's too late to discover peace of mind. So you have to learn to live with what you are, uh, instead of being at peace with what you are, which is very interesting to me because that's not something that's covered in music very much. That's a very deep statement to make.
Yeah, I think most people would throw the label nihilistic to that.
Yes, yes. I do think this is very nihilistic.
Well, suffering, like what is suffering? Is that not us? Is that does that have to be something that's not always self-imposed? Because definitely, I don't think it is for this person by the end of the song. To cleanse your life takes more than time. Take what you want, take all of it. I think this might be a person that maybe that thing that was making him suffer is no longer there
Right. And
directly.
then the suffering towards the end of the song is just self-imposed is what you're saying?
Yes. That's just
Yes,
what
I
it's yeah,
agree with
that's
that.
what makes it nihilistic, and I think that's interesting.
And
Because
that
I
does
can
make it a
recall
very interesting song. Yeah.
yeah, and I do think the middle part, there's maybe too much repetition. I think
Yeah,
what I'm
I
saying is it
agree.
could be you could take away a minute or 2 of the song, and it would be better, I think, for it.
No, I
Because
agree
this
with
is
that.
really good
Yeah.
and unique.
Or if you didn't want to take away from the length of the song, I would add more to the beginning, you know? Like
Hmm.
I do agree that just there's obviously a story being told here and you're following the progression of somebody's life or somebody's perception. you could maybe show where the perception started, but you're kind of thrown into the middle of this perception, uh, and then you're left in that perception for a little bit until the end, where we've then we've matured from this perception.
Yeah. And I don't think that makes it less interesting for us. We have a music podcast. We're like actively looking for this, but maybe for
Yeah,
someone who's listening to this for the first time, I
yeah,
think your idea is good because it
right,
definitely,
yeah,
if you make it more of a clear cut story, I think this would be a more popular song by them.
yes, yeah, I agree, because it's very
Because I
interesting
feel,
and again not something I really considered until I listened through it again, and I was like, oh, it's interesting to see that this is being covered and the story that's being told here is very unique, I think.
yeah, if I were to use like hidden gem for a song in this album, I would say it's this one.
But yes, Snail is a really good song on this album.
I think almost the antithesis to Suffer, I think maybe, in just what it expresses about time and pain.
Right. Yeah, because you're right with it being a very optimistic song, I think. And the imagery is very clear in this song. You have the flower, and then you have
Chasing the
the
sunshine.
and then you have the siren snail, which is the I guess it's part of the pain. I don't know. I
Yeah,
actually
it could be. It
yeah.
could be. Not necessarily. But I think could be very relatable to a lot of people, this song. I'm surprised this one's not more popular.
I think it's because it's the story being told is a little more difficult to I don't want to say understand, but maybe relate with because it's a little more vague, I think. It's not as direct. Like I still have issues completely understanding this song, I think.
What what's the line that's interesting?
Just all of it past see you are the only one. Because like what is the siren snail? You know?
Maybe I think it's you, actually. I
Are you
think
not the
I think the
flower?
narrator's oh. No, I don't think so actually.
Well, doesn't that make it kind of a negative song then?
I think it's about the snail going on to the flower.
Okay.
This and how it says later, softly siren coming home, siren snail.
Yeah, that's my
I think maybe
hand.
the I think maybe the flower is the pinnacle of the journey, and that's where you see the sun. Because snails, they're like on the ground usually, and maybe this flower, the pain will wash away. Although I do
Okay,
think that
yeah.
is interesting, but I think maybe the flower is what's supposed to wash away the pain. But you are not the flower. That's not the narrator.
Okay. Yeah,
You,
that makes a little more sense then, yeah. Then you're the snail.
but that's understandable, yeah, because it's very much poises the flower as like when you think of a flower, right, and then you mention sunshine, like that must be the thing growing, right? Typically, one would
Yeah,
think.
exactly. I think we typically like plants we definitely use
Yeah.
plants more in music. And so it's difficult, I guess, to find where we're especially when it's a song that's supposed to be uplifting and about growth.
Yeah, but I think I think the first two lines make sense that you are also the snail. All your seven dreams are closer than you believe. Maybe when you're on the ground and you're just this snail, you don't see the light, right? You have a shell.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
I think the narrator's talking to the narrator might be the siren aspect of this, talking to the snail to come to the flower.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess another interesting piece about this is softly siren coming home, right? And then I think he says, "Yeah, that's my home" at one point in the song. So does that imply that the snail's been on the flower before, you know? So like it knows where the happiness is, I guess, right? So he's saying you know where the happiness is and that's where your home is and that's where you need to return to. It's almost like this isn't
Perhaps
a song about discovery, it's a song about returning to a place that you've been. And if that's the case, it could also be a drug song, which I think is
I think
interesting.
yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah,
Probably the flower could also be that. I think.
right.
But when the sun shines and climbs through your window into your bed, when you wake up your own way, throwing your whole life away, that could maybe those are more. I think those are key lines for the drug angle.
Yeah, I really hadn't thought of it as a drug song before now, but now that I think it might be a flower the pain will wash
The
away
could be yeah. I think
as your
this
things
is an
come
LSD
undone.
song.
See, you are the only one. Hmm.
Also, the way the vocals are in this song, it feels very euphoric as well. I
Oh yeah,
think.
yeah. Especially past the first couple
I
lines
think
when that main riff comes in, which I really like that riff, by the way.
me too. It's
Yeah.
similar to Luna.
Oh no, it's very similar to Luna. Yeah.
But I think this song's even more euphoric than that one. And I think maybe people do think about that as maybe Smashing Pumpkins' maybe happiest song,
Is
I
Snail, you
think.
think, is their happiest? Oh,
No,
Luna.
Luna.
Luna. Yeah.
Like, but I would
I
say
think
this one's
so.
maybe not
Yeah.
happy, but euphoric. I still think this is one of their happier songs, but I think the
Yeah.
word euphoric is good for this.
Because Luna makes me feel like I'm in a trance. I don't get that with this song. It definitely
This
feels more
one
euphoric, but I don't feel like I'm in a
and like
trance.
exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, this is a multi-layered song. Multi-layered song.
Yes. Yes. And
Definitely
it can be
about
about
some kind of
happiness
drug.
or about drugs. Interesting.
Most most 90s music when it's a happy song, let's be fair.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Next song not so happy because of the name Tristessa.
Yeah, I mean, what do you take from this song?
I think it's definitely just wanting something. And what I believe Tristessa to be is I believe Tristessa is a prostitute. I think that's what I get from this.
See,
Do you
yeah,
ever wake up far from home?
right. Soul take soul as I take I. That's a very interesting line, I think.
That is an interesting line.
Because
Blurry
like
mind, so hypnotized.
to say that you're taking someone's soul, you know, like that's a very that's a hard statement to make, I think, or that's a very bold statement to make to say that you're taking
I
somebody's
mean,
soul.
I would say eye for an eye is also bold. It's a bold statement. And that's a statement with a lot of precedent.
Sure, but it's more physical, you know? Like it's not as I don't know, it's more physically demanding to me. To say that you're
Maybe
taking some like a piece of someone's soul or to take someone's soul, you know? And how can you claim that especially if it's a song about a prostitute? Or maybe that's the point, you know?
I think it's coming maybe it's coming from the the narrator's like the pimp, and like they feel like they own this person. The person being prostitute, Tristessa.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
I think it is about like the ownership of the person.
Want to believe your wish to receive, want to believe in you. I can see that. I can see that point of view, but I can also see it being from the point of view of somebody who uh is after this prostitute, like wants to pursue this prostitute, you know.
Yeah, I get both. Yeah, I get both. Potentially it is your point of view still. I still believe someone who maybe becomes infatuated with this person could still say something as physically intense as soul takes soul as I takes I.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe like that just that's a very dominating thing to want in general. And maybe that's just what kind of person this is going after this person, this prostitute.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting song. Uh but to me, I also feel like this I've never really given this song too much thought, you know? Uh Even after
Yeah.
I've listened through it a couple times, it doesn't really stick out to me. I do feel like this song is kind of filler because what it would be, which is also how I kind of feel about Daydream, because it would be an 8-song album if it weren't for these two songs. Or, okay, I don't think Daydream is filler, I just don't think it should have been the closer, you know?
Okay. And we can get to that. I think
Yeah,
that will be
yeah.
that's an interesting discussion to have.
But going to
This
Window
song
Pane, I think, because I think that Window Pane should have been the closer. It makes way more sense for Window Pane to be
in
the
its
closer.
subject matter, typically yes. I think yes. In its subject matter of well, in just what kind of song it is and what it's very direct, I think, in what it maybe wants to achieve. That your day starts today, I think. It is supposed to be a motivational song.
Yeah, do what you're gonna do and say what you're gonna say. Yeah, I think so. Which is interesting because it's to me it's very different from the other songs on this album. Even even if you think of Snail as like a straightforward or a pretty straightforward song where he's talking about achieving happiness, I think that this song is then maybe it's similar to Snail, but I think it's different from a lot of the other songs on this album because this makes it seem
I
more
definitely see it that
attainable.
way.
It makes it seem
Hmm.
more attainable,
Yeah.
whereas in Suffer we saw that this person wasn't okay with being at peace with themselves. They were having to learn, or they weren't okay just being at peace. They were having to learn to sit with themselves. You know.
Yeah. I don't think this is a concept album in any
Sure,
way.
sure,
I
yeah,
don't really think so. And I think that's also a very Smashing Pumpkins thing. Again, I said it before, melancholy, different genres. I think even then maybe it's different angles when making a song, I think, too.
right, yeah,
Coming from different places. So maybe that is, I think, why this just feels so different than something like Suffer for sure. But I think
right, yeah,
that's just something that they chose to do, I think.
yeah,
I'm not there's something deeper behind that. This is also a long song, 6 minutes. Almost seven.
yes,
Almost seven.
yes,
Yeah. It is progressive though, I think.
yeah, yeah. It is, yeah,
Although a little more dull, I think, than the progression scene in something like Rhinoceros. It's not as like not like a big boom and then the end
right,
happens.
yeah.
I would say the same about Tristessa too. Definitely seems like a more instrumentally, like a toned down Sivan or one. Like
Which,
instrumentally, these two feel like growing pains. I think
oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's fair
because I
too.
think
Which,
because I think before Snail, I think everything was a bit new, right?
right,
But here, I think why I haven't thought about those two as much is that they do just kind of sonically sound similar to other things on this album, but don't achieve it as well. I think is why I forget about these two sometimes.
So maybe that's what he meant then, when he said that he felt like they were having issues coming up with like original um material. It's more so like they were repeating the stuff that they'd already made, as opposed to like stuff that was available in the indie scene. Because I was a little
Yeah.
bit confused by that comment when he said that they were having issues coming up with original material.
Like I think Tristessa could easily be a Pixie song. I think that sounds like a
Yeah,
Pixie song to me.
yeah, no, it does. Yeah, and just the subject matter, what's being talked about, I think, is similar to the Pixies music that I've heard.
What do you think about the title of the song, Window Pane?
Um, well, because he says window pane around my heart. I think like maybe you're a little more visible than you think you are, you know?
Yeah,
Because it's different than like it being a door, right? Like doors or walls around my heart. A window pane really implies
it's
that,
something that's closed.
yeah, but a window pane, I mean, windows can still be closed, but you're visible, you know? You're still see through. What do you think about that?
I would agree, because then there's lines later like, "What are you coming to?" Stripped down to the bone. I think the song is just about showcasing yourself when it's something maybe some people already see.
Right, yeah. Interesting, uh, because
Say
that's
what you're
something
gonna
that,
say.
yeah. Well, I think that's something interesting for today's generation, you know? Like, I guess I don't know how to phrase it
I
too well,
think,
but I feel like this is something that we struggle with. Like we think that nobody, I mean, we have this loneliness issue, right? And we think that nobody sees that, and yet everybody has this issue, right?
yeah, you see
And
it
I
on
really
social
think
media.
it's just that nobody knows how to approach it, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like, especially when it comes to community building around that aspect, I don't think if you use social media, you definitely have to recognize that this is definitely not just something you face.
Right, yeah. But then, as part of this song, if people would just, be authentic, I guess, say what they're gonna say, maybe, there wouldn't be such a loneliness issue or a loneliness issue. I think people tiptoe around things a lot, you know.
Yeah, but no, I think this is a positive song.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
positive lyrics.
yeah. Does that take us to Daydream, the
I think it does take us to
final
the
album
closer of
on the
this album.
song?
That is Daydream.
Yeah, it's an
I
interesting
think
song.
Darcy's vocals on this were that was a great idea, I think.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
this was gonna be the closer, I'm glad they went with that direction and make it stand out more. I do like that aspect of it, changing the vocalist. And I wish that's something Smashing Pumpkins did more often.
Yes, like we know that James Iha is actually a pretty good vocalist, but
Oh yes, he's sang on a few as well. Yeah.
your guy, I think, has
I think
issues
your guy knows
sharing the
very well.
spotlight. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
look at
your guy
him.
he seems
Look at him, bro. He's
used to it maybe.
I mean,
Looks a little
I feel
tired.
bad for him. Like look at him. Look at his
Look at
eyes.
I
Like
think it's really interesting. Look at the two personas displayed. It is interesting.
right, yeah, he has a bald fist and Iha is just like, all right, man.
It's just
Like
done. It's just
whatever.
done.
It's an interesting dynamic, I think, between them. But no, again, this song, it's not super interesting to me lyrically. It really the biggest thing that stuck out to me was like, I mean, the vocals I think are Darcy's vocals are very good in the song. But also I just don't think that
Yeah.
this made sense as a closer. I really think Window Pane. And I can say that even understanding that it's not a concept album. I think from where we started in I Am One and where we ended should have been Window Pane. I think that would have just been, as an
Yeah.
album, it makes it more clear. I think.
For me, it's definitely a song I feel like I personally understand. I feel like I resonate. I resonate with my daydream screams bitter till the end. The love I share true, selfish to the heart, my sacred heart. Like I feel like in the realm of just keeping true or things that you keep true to yourself, I feel like you should be selfish about those things.
Yeah, yeah,
The self is something that is touched upon a few songs in this album, I think, and the sanctity of the self.
yeah. Like I mean, we definitely talked about that with I Am One, right? You know,
Yeah.
being true about what you are and what you place yourself in. And I think I think you're right with it being the same kind of idea here.
Though, yeah, I would also agree. I don't think really that interesting. I think there's a lot more to say about I'm One than this.
Right.
I think this is reverberating the feelings of that song into a more plain statement that my heart is my sacred heart. That's an unchanging thing. Once it's changed, it's an unchanging thing.
Which means it could still be an effective album closer in that sense because we're going back
No,
to the
yeah.
beginning, but I think that because Window Pane is on this album, I just think that it makes more sense to close off the
Windowpane is a
album that
more
way.
fleshed out story. It's a more fleshed
Right.
out story
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that brings us to a question that I've kind of been thinking about this whole time. Do you think that any of their more popular songs from any of their other albums, but especially Melancholy and Siamese Dream, do you think that they have a place on this album? Or more importantly, do you think that they have a place on this album and they still would have been as successful as they are today if it had released on Gish?
Um, I think a lot of Siamese Dream is a more confident songwriter in Billy Corgan. I think every song on Siamese Dream is more of a fleshed out story.
Right.
I think there was a goal to make a more fleshed out narrative in those. I think that album might have taken longer to make as well. And Melancholy, the production on that, from what I understand, is very different than the one on the first two, where it was definitely Billy Corgan was at the helm of this
Right.
and the head of probably most of the writing. Melancholy seems like a more collaborative effort. But I could see Hummer on Gish, I think. I feel like that leans into some things they're seen on this album.
Okay. Yeah.
Perhaps Rocket feels a bit like Snail to me as well. I feel like that song is about letting go of negativity that was maybe in your past and going forward. The
Sure.
snail going up the
Yeah.
flower and Rocket is just going upwards. But
Right.
no, I think most of the songs on Symphony's Dream and Melancholy are a product of this album's success, as well as its faults.
Where do you think
I
its
think the
faults were?
filler in Melancholy is different than the filler in Gish.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
repetitiveness of Tristessa and Windowpane. Like I think
Right.
we can talk about Melancholy's filler songs, which I feel like most people would say is stuff like Lily, My One and Only, and By Starlight. But
Yeah.
those do definitely sound different than other songs on that album.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I Gish is very uniform. I'll agree with that. It's very uniform sounding,
They're most uniform, yes.
which can make it a difficult listen. I mean, it's not a very long album, but it can make the filler a lot more difficult to listen to because it's not as stimulating, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely when you have instrumental breaks and it sounds like something you heard before, and you hear that more than once in an album, that definitely knocks a few points from me, I would say,
It
into where
makes
I
me
hold this
appreciate
album.
Autumn a little more because you can tell that they really went back to their roots with Autumn. With that,
It's
you know,
really interesting there, for sure. That's interesting. Well,
yeah,
I
they
have a
went
little
back
the
to
chord was the head of that one, so a little theory that maybe the other band members didn't have too much to do with that one.
maybe, maybe. Well, we saw James Eha hopping around in that one music video. I can't remember the name of.
No, I don't doubt. Well, they seem to be on good terms. But I wouldn't doubt that maybe Billy Corgan would just be allowed to take the helm on something like that.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Especially nowadays, I feel like it's no longer stuff like that isn't really quiet, you know, things that happen behind the scenes.
Oh
So I wouldn't
yeah.
be surprised if that's
Yeah.
maybe something they just choose to let go if it is something that occurs.
Right.
I guess it means we gotta do Autumn next episode.
Yeah, that's I will give
Is that
Autumn
in
an
the budget?
honest review. I will give Autumn an honest review, honest to God, if we end up on Magnificent Others. Like, I promise.
That's very fair. That's a very fair deal to him too, you know. That give the streams on that album a
Yes,
bit
like I
more,
will
you know.
actually
At
sit there
least
and
two.
listen to all the songs and give them an honest review. Like, I will do this.
Well, yeah,
Even though they
we
all
should
sound
reach out for him on
identical.
that. Take Gen Z's take on
Yeah.
Autumn. I think that's a good thing for him to spin. Because apparently Gen Z doesn't like that album. Poor him. Poor him. They only like 1979.
Yeah. But he's okay with it being Gen Z's anthem. I mean, he said this basically, that this is something Gen Z really relates to
I don't know how
nowadays.
you gotta have a you gotta have a huge ego to care about things, I think. When those are the things you care about within your legacy.
Right, sure. But this
Like
might
I
just
think
be a
if I
Gen
was
X
made
thing.
art, well, go ahead, say what you think about that.
Okay.
How's this Gen X thing?
I'm not gonna say it. I love people from Gen X, you know. I think that
I know. We have
sometimes we're
to.
a little full of ourselves and we're proud of things from our generation that we really can't be claiming, you know? Like if I don't know, if somebody 20 years from now was like, really invested in the idea of like TikTok and infatuated with TikTok, I wouldn't be like, well, TikTok was Gen Z's thing. Like you would have no fucking idea what like that's not something that I can claim, you know? Like that's such a stupid
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's.
I don't know. I know it's
I
not the
think also
same,
especially
but
it isn't the same for some things, but I think when it comes to music, I don't think that's not something fair to claim because I don't think
yeah.
that's not of what music is.
My perception on
Music
a
is not
song
something
is just
that, you know,
it's just my perception. Like I can't bar anybody from
you have to
claiming
be
their
there.
own perception. Yeah, like I don't understand. I don't
Like, that
know. I
statement to
don't
me
really get
doesn't
that
really
view.
make much sense. It's just that's just really anecdotal stuff to me. You had to be there. Like that's a statement that doesn't really hold much value to me, I think, especially when it comes to music, because I don't think my ability to think about a song doesn't change if I heard it 20 years after its release. Because what it was
Yeah,
trying to say
yeah.
definitely it couldn't have changed. Maybe the people who were listening to it back then changed. Who knows?
And maybe even the person who wrote the song originally changed. Like, I'm sure all of these songs from Gish that I'm sure he feels differently about Suffer now that he's had kids and he has, a wife. And I mean, his life has changed drastically in, the over 30
Yeah,
years that it's been released. Like, even the person who created the song probably has different views on it now. You know what I mean? I don't feel like it's fair
yeah.
to claim something like
So
that.
that's why, yeah, it's very fair to have just an opinion on it, regardless of when you found it, because it can find you in different places later in life too. I think that's something that should be pointed out more.
Oh yeah, even not even just later in life, but like it can find you in different places all the time. Like there's definitely some songs that I'll listen to when I'm happy and have a different view on them when I listen to them when I'm upset or sad or something. Like that's just
It can
I
be
think
revealing,
that's yeah, yeah.
and that's why it's good. That's why it's good to have just different opinions on things.
And it's good to always be thinking about the music that you're listening to, I think. I think Gen Z is we're sort of burdened with this claim that music is just noise to us. But I think that can be true for some, but it's not true for all. I think a lot of us are actually
It's
really thinking
definitely
about the
true for some
music.
people. It's true for some people back then as
Sure.
well.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
But
think
I
most, and I think maybe even more so now. I think I would say more people at least interact with music daily. Maybe it's not their
yeah,
thing per se, but when you're in the car, you're probably you are. I think nowadays you're probably listening to music.
yeah, yeah.
Probably something you just interact with. So yeah, I don't like that statement. Has this guy made that statement?
Uh,
Is autumn just noise?
ooh, careful. We're trying to be magnificent others. You have to be careful making statements like
Right.
that.
But again, my mind could change on that album. It's a real big if, but good.
Yeah, I mean, when pigs fly, as they say,
When pigs fly.
when autumn sings. And I think that that is on the note of autumn, it's a pretty good place to wrap up the final course, I think, because there's not much to say when it comes to autumn. Or there's so much to say, I guess. Not enough to say or not enough time to say it all within this episode, I think.
Exactly, right. It is about that. Some things come to a close. Some things come to a close. In one word, describe Gish.
Uh, Oh, that's difficult. You go first. You go first.
I think I'll just say beginning.
Yeah, I think beginning. I think beginning is fair. Or like the self. I know that's not like great, but I just feel like a lot of or reflection maybe. I
Yeah,
think that a lot of this album is about reflection.
yeah, reflective. Reflective.
Yeah, which is interesting
Feels
given
like almost like a diary almost too, I think.
yeah, it's just interesting given all of them were so young and Billy did most of the lyrics, but it's interesting that it's such a reflective album despite all of them being so young when they when it was released, you know. Very telling for the future of the
Gish.
band. Yeah, Gish. But yeah, with that I think that's all
That
we
wraps
have
up
for
the meal.
today. It's time to put out the check,
Hear the
take the
siren
leftovers
snails.
home. Hear the siren snails. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well,
And put it
this
all on
is
rye.
We're going back to the rye thing.
Not today. Different
Okay.
episode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll see about that.
That's all
Yeah,
right.
that's a wrap. All right. Well, this is the sandwich, clocking out,
Yeah. The
and we'll see you
worm
next
going back
time.
under.
We'll see you next time.